everyone and welcome to The Outsider. My name is Adele Queen and I hope you're doing well. So the last video I talked about studying in Australia as an international student, and my colleagues at work told me that I was looking like a journalist, which is good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. And so today I said, let me try and relax a little bit. Let me try and tone it down, calm down. So this is me trying to calm down, and I look calm, I hope so. Anyway, so we were talking about studying in Australia as an international student. I took you through all the processes of acquiring your visa as an international student, and then I promised you that I was going to talk to you about living in Australia and studying in Australia as an international student. So this is it. Let's get right into it. My first experience, I hated cheese. I was thinking about cheese. I was introduced to Western food at McDonald's. Actually, this video is a continuation of part 1 of a video that I did last time. So if you didn't watch it, make sure you go back and watch it so that this video can make sense to you. When you first arrive in Australia, the first thing you need to familiarize yourself with is public transport. If you need to get from point A to point B, you need to familiarize yourself with transport, and it is the easiest method to reach anywhere. I mean, when you first come here, you don't know anything. The most convenient way actually is to have a car. But at that point, you knew you don't have a car. You can do that. You can buy a car in 3 to 5 months when you're here. It's easy to get a car when you're in Australia. So you need to familiarize yourself with public transport for starters. Public transport in Australia is very developed, very convenient, very easy to use, and it is state-owned. That means the government owns it. So you don't have to worry about fares hiking. You know, in my country, fares hike. When it rains, fares hike. When it's too hot, fares hike. That was a joke. The last one was a joke. Generally, fares hike for any reason, for just a stupid reason. Okay, so you don't have to worry about fares hiking. If fares have to hike, you will be given a very long notice before that happens. So you don't have to worry about getting to the bus stop and you only realize that you have $5 and you need to have $10 for you to get to where you're going, and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? How am I going to get home? And so on and so forth. The next thing you need to know is actually learn about what kind of transport you can catch. There are 3 forms of transport system. I mean, there's so many of them, but at this point, as a student where you just need to get to school and get to the shops, there's 3 forms of transport system you can use if you're not using private like Ubers and taxis. So if you're using public transport, you use a train, you either use a tram, or you either use a bus. All these public transport systems are easy to catch. So what you need to do is familiarize yourself again with the timetable, because you only use a timetable. There's a time, I mean, they operate on a timetable. Sometimes you're gonna have to use more than one public transport. That means that you can connect a train with a bus, or a bus with a tram, and so on and so forth. So you need to familiarize yourself with where you want to get your point B. Where is your point B? If sometimes you find that around the city mostly, and not far from the city is where you find mostly trams are being used, and then mostly people who live farther away is usually trains are convenient for that matter. And then again, you need to find out how you're going to use public transport in terms of payment. In Australia, there is no money exchanging hands when it comes to public transport. There is something called a mic card, and this is the case of Melbourne or Victoria. Victoria is a state, yeah, so Melbourne is a city. So in the case of Victoria, we use something called a mic card. Other states use another card and it has a different name, so it depends on the state. But pretty much the whole of Australia has a system of public transport. It will depend with the state. And when you get this mic card, it resembles like a bank card, and you have to recharge it. So you recharge it at something called a booth. A booth is something that you go and insert your mic card, and then you put a bank card, or you put your money depending on how much you want to recharge on the mic card, and you are recharged and you're ready to go. These booths can be found anywhere in train stations. Every point a bus stops you can recharge your Myki card, and then you can also find them anywhere in the city. These booths are all over the city, so if within a few meters you will see a Myki booth where you can recharge your Myki card. You also have an option of recharging your Myki card on your phone, so you can just upload your Myki card on your phone and you don't have to be carrying around a physical card. Okay, let's get down to business, and your business is going to school. So the next thing after you familiarize yourself with public transport is of course going to school. And when you go to school, there are two processes involved to getting started in school. That is registration and orientation, obviously, as you may well know. So registration is basically being issued with a student ID number and being issued a student card. You're also issued with a student portal or a student account. This is where you hand in your assignments. This is where you select your timetable or you select your subjects for that semester. This is basically where you receive all the information pertaining school. And there's one thing that people should know, and you will be told when you're in school or when you start school, that you need to carry your student ID card everywhere because it is your primary identification. You know, when you're living anywhere, life can happen, and sometimes this life can be trouble. So you need your ID card, student ID card, for identification. Ideally, your passport is supposed to be your primary identification, but surely who's going to carry around a passport? For one thing, you don't want to lose, and when you start carrying it around, you are at risk of losing your passport, and good luck renewing your passport, especially when your embassy is slow at doing stuff. So you don't want to risk losing your passport because it is easy to obtain another student ID card rather than going all the way to get a new passport. If you are a student, you are at advantage because you already have your student ID card and it is acceptable as a primary identification document if you are not having your passport around. So keep your passport far and safe. You don't want to interfere with that one until it is necessary. So the next thing is orientation, and orientation is basically where you are familiar with school's facilities, how the school functions, the system in the school, and everything that you need to know. And this is very important. I cannot stress how important orientation is. For some reason, people miss orientation because maybe your visa came in late and for other reasons, but it is very important when you attend your orientation because this is where you get all the information pertaining school, support system, anything to do with school, and also you are given other information not concerning school only. You're given information outside school, how to conduct yourself outside school, and also in school you are familiarized with the laws and the rules that you need to follow while you are in the country. And also orientation is fun. There's a lot of games being played and there's a lot of goodies being given out. So they want to entice you as a new student. They want you to feel good about enrolling in that school. So when it comes to working, your student visa comes with permission to work. You're allowed to work 40 hours a fortnight. That is 20 hours a week when your studies are in full swing. This is because they need you to balance your studies so that you don't fail, so that you don't have a reason to fail with your other life outside school. That means when you're on holiday, you can work as much as you want. You can grind the whole night, you can grind the whole day, as long as you are paying the tax, as long as you're giving Caesar what belongs to Caesar. The advantage of that is Australia has a high employment rate. The unemployment rate is very low, it's below 5%, so there's a lot of work going around and you won't miss to find a job. And any job is good because there's a minimum wage, so you cannot be paid below a certain rate, unless of course your papers are not right or you are working illegally. That's when people try to take advantage of you. But when your papers are right, there is a legal rate that you're supposed to be paid depending on what industry you are working. As a student in Australia, as an international student in Australia, you can totally support yourself. You don't have to be waiting for support from back at home because you can pay your bills, you can support your lifestyle here, you can pay your rent, and so on and so forth. So that is the whole advantage of being a student in Australia. There's a lot of things you can do. So I encourage people to work, and a lot of people work, and you can save a lot of money by working and studying at the same time. So let's talk about life. Lifestyle in Australia is very interesting apart from school. Australia is a multicultural country. You'll find people of all walks, you'll find people of all interests, and there's no shortage of anything that you might find around the world. You'll find it right here because it is a high multicultural country. So when it comes to food, there is a lot of food. I've been here for almost 3 years and I don't know quarter of the food. Most you will like and some of them you'll be disgusted with. Some of the foods, of course, you'll have to acquire the taste, and if you haven't been here to acquire that taste, it's going to be very hard for you to get into eating that kind of food. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do. There's trendy clubs. If you like nightclubs, there is a lot of stadiums. It is a sport country. They do mostly a sport called Australian rules. There's also, you know, beaches and all kind of things you can see. The country is huge. You can travel to a lot of states, so you can never fall short of what to do while you are in Australia. The official language spoken in Australia is English, unless of course other communities have their own languages. Like myself, you'll find me speaking Swahili with my fellow Kenyans. So there's such small communities, but the official language of communication, the medium of communication formally, is English. That's why you're required to do an English test, so that you can understand stuff in class, because that's the medium of communication everywhere in Australia. Unless, of course, there's also a native language spoken by native Australians, that is the Aboriginal language. But basically, majority of the people speak English as an official language. There's one very important thing that you need to know when it comes to academics. You need to take it seriously, because as an international student, you are under a microscope when it comes to academics. So you are monitored so that your performance is kept in check. If you consistently fail, if you continuously fail, if you are adamant with failure, you're called in front of a panel. If you don't have a good reason for your failure, of course you're given chances. I don't know how many chances you're given, but you're given a chance to improve your performance. If you continue failing, of course you'll be expelled from school, and they take that very seriously. While you're here, your main purpose is to study, so you make sure you're passing in your studies or in your academics. Schools want to keep their reputation, and if you keep pulling them down, of course they'll show you the door. And finally, as I finish, I posed a question in my first video whether it was worth it to study anywhere as an international student. Personally, I recommend you to study as an international student, because this is an experience which you will never gain by just being in your country, especially if your country has just one culture or one cultural aspect. So going out there, apart from the academics or apart from school, there's other aspects of life that you will be exposed to. You'll find that you're a different person. You don't stay the same, because you learn about other people's culture and many things that I'm not going to talk about today in this video. So personally, I'll speak for Australia as an international student destination, because this is where I've done my postgraduate study. So if you have that opportunity, if you have that chance to study overseas, I recommend that you take that opportunity, and I think your life will never be the same, because there is massive opportunities. So as I end this video, guys, please subscribe. Make sure you click on that subscribe button. If you have any questions, make sure to write it on the comment section, and I will be sure to reply or get back to you. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.